I wanted to begin by extending our deep sympathy and condolences to the family of Kim Damty, the young woman whose life was so brutally taken in Israel. I'm very conscious that her family, her friends, her wider community are really suffering at this time, and we just want to send our heartfelt support and sympathy to this time. She should not have lost her life in such a brutal and traumatic way. And today is not the day for politics, but as political leaders we have to reflect that there is an onus on all of us to ensure that young people everywhere, Israeli young people, Palestinian young people, can live full lives safely and in peace. I also would maybe just give you a sense. We've met with businesses from across the north. We've had a very valuable dialogue with them. It's very clear that people at this stage are frustrated, wish to see the executive and government back up and running. People have a real sense of the opportunities that are presenting themselves, opportunities that are being missed, and they really want to crack on with business. We've told them that as ever we are ready and anxious to get back to work. Michelle O'Neill is ready, willing, able to lead an executive for all. We talked about lots of things, including Euro 2028, which is great news, not just for the North, but for all of Ireland and indeed Britain. Great news story for sport. And of course Casement and the development of Casement will be at the heart of that, a huge economic driver for Belfast and beyond. And a great news story when I have to get this right, the IFA, not the FAI, although they're involved too, the IFA, the IRFU and the GAA working together. It's that kind of partnership and collaboration that's the model that we should all follow, and particularly in political life, working together, collaboration to get the job done for the people.
Thanks. Just on Casement Park, can I ask you your view on the DUP? Jeffrey Donaldson has said they will oppose the British government providing money, and they will stop Stormont providing any additional money if power sharing is restored. Is this simply about funding, or do you think there's more to this?
Well, look, Casement Park is a flagship project. It's been agreed. I mean, it's been delayed for 10 years. It's been agreed, and it's going to happen. And I think that's a fantastic news story for everybody concerned. You now have two governments involved. I mean, countless soccer leagues involved, and the wider sporting community. And I think for the North in particular, the opportunity and the economic drive that this can bring will just be immense. So let's grab that. I know there's a need for investment in health and other areas. We have been to the fore of making that case, but we need to get back into government. We need the executive up and running.
But what do you make of the DUP opposition to the funding?
Well, I find it incomprehensible that anybody would be against something that brings so much obvious good for everybody. This is a good news story for everybody right across the North, for sport, for the economy, for relationships between Britain and Ireland, North and South. So I think rather than complaining about, or as they might say, looking a gift horse in the mouth, we need to grab this now with both hands, make it happen, and of course get the executive back up and running.
Tracy?
What's going on? Not Mary Lou. The point that Sir Jeffrey has also made is that if all this money is given to redevelop Casement, there should be equity in the money that is given to the other sports that have already had their stadia built. Do you think that there should be equity in terms of money spent? A lot of money is given.
Well, you know what I think, Tracy? I think that everybody in politics should take their lead from the sporting associations themselves, because what I know is that the IFA and the IRFU along with the GA, are very much behind this project, and I think they're leading from the front, and I want to commend them for their collaboration, for their sense of what is good collectively for everybody across the north. And you know, I think everybody in politics, let's just take note of that and follow that example.
Can I just ask you about what's happening in Gaza again? Have you reflected on meetings you've had in the past with Hamas, given everything that's been going on? And just on another point, unrelated to that, John Boucher has just been announced as the interim chief constable. He's taken up that position as we speak. Has your party any concerns that there might be a conflict of interest given his investigation into Operation Nova that is due out in the coming months?
Well, on the Middle East, and as I say, I'm conscious that a young Irish woman, her life was brutally taken, and her family are laying her to rest. And I think the loss of that life and the loss of so many, many others, Israeli and Palestinian, over such a long, long time, tells us that more of the same and an ongoing cycle of failure simply isn't good enough. We need immediate ceasefires, we need dialogue, we need a process of peace building, we need the application of international law across the board. And to make that happen, people are going to have to talk to each other. And God knows we know that from our own country's experience. For what it's worth, whatever we can bring in a positive way to assist in that project, we are very anxious to bring. And certainly the government in Dublin, there was an exchange in the Dáil yesterday. These matters were raised, and I think we have cross-party consensus and a sense informed by our own experiences around the absolute need, firstly, for the violence to stop, secondly, for dialogue, deep, inclusive dialogue to begin. And then we need to sort this out, and our guide, our rule book in making that happen is international law, the full and equal and even-handed application of international law. On the issue of the interim chief constable, the policing board obviously has done its job. There's a mighty piece of work to be done here, rebuilding trust amongst the public, but also within the service itself, amongst officers. We wish him well in that regard, and obviously the policing board will have to continue with the job of finalising the post of chief constable. But obviously there has to be leadership, and we're glad that an appointment has been agreed.
Claudia?
Yeah.
So just on the team, do you think that the government has been taking advantage of Ireland's somewhat unique position as of neutrality in the negotiations? And just on Stormont, with some slightly changing rhetoric from Jeffrey Donaldson, is there a bit more optimism, and what are the chances, do you think, of Stormont potentially being back before the end of this year?
I think in terms of the Middle East and Ireland and our kind of historical experience of colonisation, partition, war and conflict, and then peace building, I think we need to really leverage all of that experience in good faith, to the very, very best of our ability. And I think that we can have an influence. I don't want to overstate it, but equally I wouldn't understate the value of an Irish voice, and we're encouraging everybody right across political life, north and south, but particularly those in government in Dublin, to really grasp that opportunity. And we're trying to tease out at this stage from the government what that might mean and what those initiatives might look like through the UN, through other international and multilateral institutions. On the DUP conference, we want to hear that the DUP are going back to work with everybody else, and that the executive will be re-established. So obviously we'll be listening and watching very carefully. We hope that we will hear a positive message, because we know that people have waited far too long. And I spoke of that frustration amongst the business community that was very clear to us. And I think that's reflected across society. There has been time, there has been patience, and now it has to be lights, camera, action.
If I could take you back to Casement Park for just a second.
Yesterday, CEO of the IFA, Patrick Nelson, told Cool FM and Downtown Radio that government funding has already been secured for Casement. Can you outline what the Irish government will be contributing to that?
There will be a contribution from Dublin. Is it a confirmed figure? It's not a confirmed figure. It'll be a substantial investment from Dublin, and rightly so. It's a very, very important part of sporting infrastructure, particularly for Gaels in the north. But beyond that, it'll be, I'm sure the GAA will confirm that it'll be open for use by other sporting codes and for other purposes. So Dublin will be a partner in this, equally the British government, and of course the GAA itself. So I think it's exciting. You've listened about this project for so long. People will wonder, it's like broadband or the metro in Dublin. People wonder, are these things ever going to happen? It can happen now, and the Euro 28 gives that impetus and that context for this incredible project to be finally taken over the line.
Just to go back to IFA and DUP conference, and there has been speculation, as what you mentioned, or the changing rhetoric, more optimism, speculation that this is finally it. If this talk, this 2-week window, if that passes, we have election season coming, do you think that's it, that it can get back?
Well, we have always sought to strike a determined and optimistic note. I mean, we're not prepared to concede that the institutions would not be up and running, but equally we're aware that this state of inertia can't go on forever. So there is now, the ball is in the DUP's court. They have a big decision to make, and we can only hope and expect that they will make the right decision. That's this plan A, with an executive, an inclusive executive, a functioning assembly, the north-south infrastructure, the east-west piece. That's the best outcome for everyone. And we hope and expect that we will see further moves and ideally a confirmation of that at the conference itself or shortly thereafter. Well, if it doesn't, we will deal with that. But let's have the conference happen, and let the DUP arrive at the only logical and fair conclusion, which has to be about going back into government, reforming the executive.